Hi guys, Vic here, and today on my channel you will get to know how to set up and play a game of Dark Ages. This is a new game that arrived from Kickstarter a week, two ago, or something like that, depending on when you're watching the video, by Adam Kwapinski and Andrzej Novak, and this is published by Board and Dice. This is a game that comes in one or two boxes. This box is the Holy Roman Empire, and the second box, which has a map of France and Spain, I believe, so the western part of Europe, and a name that I can't pronounce, is somewhere at my house, and you don't need it to play a game for 2 to 4 players. This other box can also be played for 2 and 4 players, but if you combine those two boxes together and have one gigantic map, you can play up to 8 players of a game, which is impressive. But today we will cover the Holy Roman Empire, a 2-player game, and I'll be mentioning the changes in the rules for 3 or 4 players. We won't be talking about the solo modes today because this is going to be a long video anyways, and we'll do the setup, we will do the rules, and a tiny teeny fragment of gameplay. So without further ado, let's take a look at how to set up a game of Dark Ages, the Holy Roman Empire. Okay, so here in front of me I have the biggest components set up already. You've got the map of the game, and this is the side for the one box game. On the other side of this map you have the side for when you want to combine two maps together from the two boxes. You have this culture track and the action board placed here next to the board. You've got two players with their player boards. These don't have any color differences or anything like that, so each player gets just one, and you've got all the rest of the components set up. So let's start with how to set up the players. So each player comes with buildings which look like so. I will show this to you on Zoom. These are farms which you place on these little squares on the player board. No matter the order, from left to right or from right to left, it's all identical, but you cover all of those numbers here. Right, so let's do it right now. Bear with me. Okay, each player also has 3 types of units. There is the cavalry, there are the archers, and there also are footmen. And you should take all of those units in each player's color and give it to them, obviously. So I have those set up quite in a mess around my board, and let's leave it at that. You also have transient units in the same types, but they are gray. As you can see, this is a gray transient cavalry unit. They should be placed somewhere nearby. So as far as it goes with the player setup, the other things that you need are the player tokens, which are the player markers, which are those markers with a flag. You need a warehouse marker, which is this smaller circular disc. You need the point marker, and you need the nobles markers, which each player has 6 of. So what you do with those is you take the warehouse marker and place it on the first area of the warehouse on your player board. You take the point marker and you place it on the 0 space for each player. That's where we start. You take the 6 noble discs and place them near your play area, and the first player places 1 noble disc in the discard space on the culture track as well. In a 2-player game, it's only the first player. In a 3-player game, it's also only the first player. In a 4-player game, the first 2 players place 1 of their discs on the discard area. Okay, each player also should have a plus 100 and plus 200 points marker for scoring your victory points if you have, crossed the 100 threshold for any reason. And each player also has 1 tiny culture marker, which you place, let me reach here, on the first spot of the culture track, which is here. All right, so this is the player setup mostly complete. The only thing that you will have to do still is choose a ruler for your kingdom and set up on the map. But let's talk about the map for a moment. So for the map, you need the culture deck, which are those cards with this book on the reverse, and on the other side you have different actions. Mind you that you have to look at the symbol, and for a two-player game only the cards with symbol 2+ should be in the deck. There is a 3+ symbol for 3 players and 4+ symbol if you're playing a game of 4 or more players, so then you mix up and add all those other cards. You shuffle this deck, place it here, and you uncover the top 6 cards. So to fill in this row, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Okay. The next thing is you should take the 5 action cards, which is Maneuver, Development of Culture, Recruiting, Research, and Building. Shuffle them and place them face up in random order in these areas on the culture board as well. Then you have a pile of neutral buildings, out of which the keeps and the churches stand out as 2 different types. You place the keeps somewhere near your player board so that everybody has easy access to them, but the churches should be placed on this church track on the culture board, and you fill this track in up until the shown number of players, 2, 3, or 4. In my case, I will be placing these churches until I reach the space with number 2 for a 2-player game. There you go. The rest of the churches can go back into the box. Then you should take the city tokens, which are those gigantic triangular tokens, and count out a limit of those for a different player counts. So for 2 players you should have 11 cities prepared, for 3 players you should have 13 cities prepared, and for 4 players it's the whole 15 cities that you can find in the box, and place them somewhere near the board. Now each region should get a building that's connected with the resource that they produce. Now we've got 4 resources in this game, and these resources are as follows. We've got wood, which is green, we've got rocks, which are black, we've got leather, which is red, and we've got steel, which is blue. So if you see, for example, a wood icon on top of the name of Saxony, you know that you have to put a green building there. And if you see an iron symbol in Swabia, you should put a blue building there. And this is what I will be doing now. So I will be populating the board with 1 building in each region. After you've placed all the buildings, you check if you haven't forgotten anything, like I did right now, and thanks to the magic of video editing, I could speed up the whole process so that you didn't have to go through this with me in a slow pace. Okay, so we've got 1 building in each area, as you can see, covered, and the rest of them should be next to the board because you will be adding new buildings as well. Now the resource tokens should be in easy reach of all the players as well, so you place them somewhere near the board, and you also have gold, which is those coins, which are not a resource, and this is important to remember that gold does not count as a resource. We will get back to this when the time is right. Okay, so now we've got the majority of the board already set up. You also have 3 colors of dice. They are green, red, and blue, and these should be placed near the board as well. And after you do this, we can take a look at the kings and choose the king that is going to be appropriate, or that is going to be the favorite king for each of the players. So you can recognize the king cards by the reverses with the same base, and each king has, as you can see, 1, 2, 3 cards, and you should basically spread them out on the table and allow each player to choose. The first player to choose their king is the last player in turn order, so the player who is sitting to the right of the first player. So let's say, for the sake of this game, that Moimir is going to be chosen by the white player, and you can place his card here, and these 2 cards go into the player's hand, and the other player will choose Berthold, and he will take these 2 cards into his hand. The other kings can be easily returned to the box right now. Now, the choice of the king means that you should place a city in the designated region on your king's card. So in this case, Moimir's capital is in Moravia, and this building that's a stone quarry is attached to one of the walls of the city, and Berthold's capital is in Cartagena, and of course the steel production building is placed next to the city as well on one of the walls. Each player also places 2 infantry units in their capital region, so 2 infantry units go to Cartagena, 2 yellow units, 2 white units go into Moravia, and also the first farm on the left of your player board should be placed in your capital as well, thus uncovering the army limit for the beginning of the game, which is in both cases 3. The last thing that you do is you should place the title cards, which look, for example, like so. This is the title for Eastern Saxons, somewhere near the board, and I will just place them near the areas for which they are responsible. So let's do it like so, so that they are all easily visible, right? And I'll place Cartagena here and Bohemia somewhere here. You can place them off the board as well. After you've placed the title cards, there is one last thing to do, which are the barbarian tokens. And for a standard game, you are taking the barbarian tokens with the white symbols, because there is also an alternative of red tokens with skirmishers, called skirmishers, but they are for one of the add-ons of the game. And you place 1 skirmisher token, a random side up, in each region that is not a player capital and region that doesn't show a higher player count than 2 in our case, or 3 or 4 depending on the game. So 1 token should go here, this is the 2+, and there isn't a player capital here. 1 token should go here, 1 token should go here, 1 goes here, 1 goes here, there is another one here. And this is it. We've got all of the tokens spread around, and here we've got 3+, 4+, and 4+, 4+, 4+, etc., etc. player counts, so there are no tokens in these areas. And the last thing you should do also is place 1 player token in a player color not used in this game in each region that doesn't have a barbarian token right now and doesn't also have a capital, and these regions are not being used in the game for this number of players. So for example, in a 2-player game, this region and all the regions here along this line and below them are not used. So the fight is only happening north of Carinthia and Bavaria and Swabia, so we will be pushing in this direction, and the rest of the barbarian tokens can get back to the box. The last thing is to give each player 1 resource of each kind and 1 gold coin. So I will place them on the king cards for the respective players. And now you are ready to play a game of Dark Ages. Okay, so a game of Dark Ages doesn't have a set amount of turns. It can end drastically in unpredictable moments, but it has 5 triggers that may mean that the game is nearing an end. The first trigger is once this deck of cards is depleted. If the last card is taken, the game ending trigger is done. The second trigger is when all of the churches here are built onto the map, then the game triggers the end. The third trigger is when all the cities from the supply of this 11 that we had in the beginning, and 2 of them are already on the board, are built, and this also triggers the game end. The fourth trigger is when 1 player has 4 upgrades upgraded to level 3. That's when the game end is triggered, and the first player has reached the end of the culture track, and this is also when the game end can be triggered. So there are 5 ways to ending the game, or to getting this game closer to the end. All right, we are starting with the yellow player, this is the first player, and he has one noble token already discarded because he is the first player, and he will have the first move. Now, during the game, you will be choosing from these 5 actions here, and sometimes you will be doing the reactions that are below. And we will discuss each of those actions as we progress through the game and as we do those moves. It will be easier to explain when I'm making examples with what I have here, right? So the first player is starting the game, the yellow player, Berthold, who is located here in Carinthia, and he will take one of his noble discs and he can place it on any of those 5 actions. And let's start with a recruit action. So he will place his disc over here. Now let's take a look at the recruit card. Now the recruit card says that you can recruit 1 new unit in a province you control. The province must contain a city. So now a province on the map is one area surrounded by those red borders, and a region is a group of provinces of the same color. So this is one gigantic region here with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 provinces. This is a smaller region with 3 provinces. Here we've got a green region with 3 provinces and another region here. These white provinces are regions on their own. So this is a region with only 1 province, and this is a region with only 1 province. So this means that when you are taking a recruit action, you can recruit 1 new unit in a province you control. So this is a province that, this is a province that Berthold, the yellow player, controls, because he has at least 1 plastic marker of his color, whether it's a unit or a farm. A city doesn't allow you to control a province because a city is gray. It can change hands. So right now, Berthold is controlling only 1 province in this region, and it has a city, so he can recruit 2 here. And now we should take a look at the player board, because at the bottom of the player board you can see the units that are available together with their costs. So this is, for example, light infantry that everybody has in the beginning of the game. It's level 1 and its cost is 1 leather. And the next unit is archers, which is also level 1, and it costs 1 leather and 1 wood to recruit. The last unit is the cavalry, light cavalry, which costs 2 leather and 1 iron to recruit, and it's also level 1. So now, since Berthold has chosen the recruit action, he can pay the cost and recruit a unit, and I will do this. So I will take 1 leather and 1 wood and recruit an archer unit. Now, there is no limit of units that can be in 1 province or 1 region. You will see that the amount of units on the map is limited in another way later, but you can put as many units as you want for now. The only limit is the number of available minis that you have in your supply. Gold as a monetary unit, which is not a resource, can be used to replace any type of resource. So I could have easily recruited 1 unit of light cavalry by paying 1 iron, 1 leather and 1 gold, which would supply the 2nd leather to pay off the cavalry, but I don't want to do that just yet. So for now my army is built up, and this is the end of the first turn for the yellow player. Now the white player can take his noble disc and, well, they could copy easily the movement of Berthold, because they could also put their disc on recruiting and recruit another unit, but the white player will decide to do a development of culture action. And this is the action that we're talking about, and development of culture means that you can take 1 card from the culture card offer. Now, there are 6 cards on offer on the culture track, but the cards that are available to you are determined by your position on the culture track. So if your marker is here, then the only card available to you is the first one. If your marker reaches this red field, then this and this card will be available to you, and if you are here, then all the cards are available to you. The first player to reach a red field also is rewarded with 1 gold, so it pays off to be faster in culture. But for now, Moimir, the white player, will do the development of culture, and the only card in reach is this one for him, so he will take it and add it to his hand. Now you can have 10 cards maximum in your hand at any time, and the cards you have in your hand you can play at different times. And after you take a card, you slide all of those to the left and you add a new one at the end of the row. Now, there are three main types of cards that you can collect from the culture display in the basic game, and these cards are upgrades for your nation or for your units. These can be relics, and these can be also those kind of, let me find you one, horizontal cards that are called cognomen cards. And now, if you have a cognomen card in your hand, this card, let me zoom in for you on this, this card allows you to collect victory points for a special condition. Like, for example, this, receive 1 victory point for each level of all your common technologies. So if you have a few common technologies, you can receive 1 victory point for each. You play this card from your hand for free during your turn and you collect the victory points. This card, however, has to be played from your hand each time you are passing during a turn, and we'll talk about passing later. So you can't hold on to those cognomen cards when you are passing, but you can keep them up until you pass in the game and play them at will. Now, the other type of cards are relics, which look, for example, like this. And this is a Holy Nails relic, and this one lands in your hand as well, but you can play it after you have built a church using the build action. So you build a church and then you play, for example, this card to recruit a unit for free and place it in the province where you build this church. So relic cards always operate together with churches. And then we've got two types of upgrade cards. Now, the first type of upgrade card is a unit upgrade. For example, this cavalry upgrade, which you place onto your cavalry area on the player board, and it can change the cost of the cavalry, it adds a level to the cavalry, and it changes the stats of the cavalry as well. We'll talk about the stats when we are doing some battle. And there are also upgrades connected with your nation, which have 3 levels, and you slide them in here from the top of the player board, and there are 4 spaces in which you can place these kinds of actions, and we will get to playing these actions later on during the round. So for now, the white player is done. He collected 1 culture card into his hand, and that's it for their turn. It's back to Berthold, the yellow player, and he is doing another action. And let's use this army of his and let's do a maneuver action. This will be the 3rd action to explain, and for Berthold is a good action to perform. Now, when you are doing your maneuver action, you first have to check your army limit and move one of your armies to a neighboring province. So first, what is checking the army limit? You check what number is the first number, the highest number uncovered on your farm track. For now, in the beginning of the game, this is 3. So this means that you can have 3 units in the whole of the map in the game, not only in the province from which you are moving, but on the whole map. For each exceeding unit, for each unit over this number, you either have to pay 1 gold or take the unit off of the map. But for now, Berthold is within the limit. He's got number 3 here. He's got 3 units on the map, so he can move these units. And now he can move all units from one province into a neighboring province. I'm sorry I've screwed up a bit, guys, but I have to backtrack a bit right now because I forgot that Berthold as a king, and this will be a good lesson for you as well, is, as you can see, a king for only 3+ players. So I have to throw him out of the game and I have to replace the yellow player with a different king, which has 2+ in the corner, and I will do that with Gero First the Great, and this will be the king that will be playing in this game. Sorry about that, guys. That's very unprofessional. That's my mix-up. So I have to move this capital here into Marca Geronis, and this barbarian token should disappear from here, and all of those units as well as the farm would go here as well. Okay, so this is where the capital is located right now, and both Austria and Cartagena are unavailable because they have a free plus over there. I've totally mixed this up. Sorry, so the game plays only in this, and this region. My bad, I hope you can forgive me. Okay, but still, we are at the movement phase here right now, and there should be a barbarian token here as well. I forgot about that. I missed this one. And I would like to, the yellow player would like to move into this region, into Thuringia, or yeah, into Thuringia, and fight the barbarians. Let's show an example of a fight here. Now we'll use all the units, because if I leave this area and I have a farm here with my color, I still control this region, so it's okay. If I didn't have a farm, that would be another story completely. So now I can move here, and I have to fight the barbarians. And for fighting the barbarians, you use the gray transient units as to keep track of how much barbarian forces you have. Now, the barbarians here have a force of 1 archer and 1 infantry. And on the other side of this token, there is a reward for defeating the barbarians. But some of those tokens are placed the reward side up, and some of them are placed their strength side up, and this is for a purpose, because sometimes you will know what the reward is, and it might be interesting for you, but you don't know how strong are the barbarians you'll be fighting, and sometimes you know that the barbarians have a specific strength, and you can calculate your chances more, but you don't know what the reward will be. So in this case, this is the the second situation. So I know what the strength is. This is 1 archer and 1 infantry, but I have no idea what the reward for winning will be. But still, let's fight. So as soon as you enter an area with barbarians or enemy units, a fight ensues. And now for the fight, you should look at the statistics for your units. And the statistics from the top are a ranged attack, a cavalry attack, and a melee attack, as you can see here on the zoom. So yes, so this is a ranged attack, a cavalry attack, and a melee attack, and some of them have numbers, and this number means that this is the lowest that you can roll on the dice in order to score a hit. And each unit also has their strength. This is how many hits they can take before they die. So both light infantry and archers have only 1 hit, and then they are out of the game. And now the player uses the stats of their units, upgraded or not, on the board. The barbarians, on the other hand, always have the stats that are printed on the first level of the player board. So they have always the basic units. And we roll the dice for each unit going from top to bottom. So first we do the range attacks for the archers, because the archers are the only unit that has ranged attacks. And each of us, both the yellow player and the barbarians, have 1 archer, so we will roll 1 die for each of those players. And now the yellow player rolls a 6, which means that he got a hit, and the barbarians roll also a 6, which means that they have a hit as well. And the player who is controlling the units decides who they are killing. So 1 hit takes off 1 infantry for the barbarians, and the barbarian player, the player who's rolling for the barbarians, says that 1 hit also destroys 1 of the infantry for the yellow player. And now the barbarians have nobody else to roll for the cavalry, because they have no horses, and they have 1 roll for the archers also in melee, but it's only a 6 or more that gets a hit, whereas the yellow player can roll 1 green die for 1 of their infantry and 1 blue die for their archer. And the green die on the infantry says that in melee, infantry has a number 5 or more if they want to hit. So the yellow player has more chances of killing the barbarians off. So let's see how it goes. Yellow player first, and he's got a 4 and a 3, so those are 2 misses. And then a 6 would help the barbarian, and the barbarian got a 6. So in this case, the barbarian player could kill 1 of the units, and this would end the battle in a draw. And when a battle ends in a draw, the defending player wins. Now, what does it mean that there is a draw? At the end of the battle, we calculate the battle strength of all the units, and the battle strength is equal to the level of the units that survived the battle. So this unit is level 1, this unit is level 1, so it's 1-to-1 in battle strength, so the defenders win. But for the sake of this demonstration, let's say that the yellow player survived with 2 units, so that the roll was different than a 6 for the barbarian archer. So now we've got 2 level 1 units, which gives us a strength of 2. This is 1 unit, which has a strength of 1, so the barbarians disappear. This region is conquered by the yellow player, and he takes this token, and this means that they gain 1 iron from this battle as spoils. And now this trophy from the barbarians goes here into this first space on the trophy track, and this one is empty. As you can see, there is no icon here, but this means that the next time yellow is fighting the barbarians, he would use this icon here during the second fight, which means that the barbarians would get +1 infantry units to their army, but winning against those barbarians would grant the yellow player 2 victory points. And if he covers this area with the trophy, the next battle with the barbarians would grant the barbarians +1 archer unit instead of 1 infantry, but it would yield a free victory point reward for defeating them. And the last area is with 1 cavalry and 4 victory points, and each combat after this 4th one is also subjected to this icon's modification, to the last icon modification. So this is how you can conquer terrains, and basically the fight against your enemy player plays out the same, but you use the statistics for the upgraded units if anybody has upgrades for their units from the player boards, and that's basically the only difference. So now that yellow has conquered this area, they can also try and settle this area if they want to, because if they only conquered it, if they move those 2 units out, then they won't have the control over their over this territory. What does settling mean? You have this action described here on your player board, and it says that settling is a free action, so you can do it anytime on your turn apart from doing a normal action, and it means that you have to eliminate your units in a province with no farm to place the first farm in this province. The settling cost is printed on your ruler card. And this means that if I would like to settle here on this area, I would have to pay 3 in the cost of units when it comes to their level. And I don't have this cost to pay because I have only 2 level 1 units here, so this is a cost of 2. How do you calculate this cost, you ask? There are 3 numbers on your ruler card, 2, 3, and 5. In my case, 2, 4, and 5 in the Moimir's case. And the first number, so 2, is for settling areas which are neighboring your capital and in the same region. So this and this would be settled for 2 levels of units. If the second number is for provinces which are either in the same region but not adjacent to your capital, or are neighboring your capital but are in a different region, like for example this. So this is why I would need 3 level 1 units to settle this area, and all the other areas further away are the last number from your ruler card. So in example of Gero, this would be 5 units in level. So I can't settle this region just yet. I will have to wait. So I did my maneuvering action and I'm done for now. Now, the white player will go for research right now, which is the 4th action that you can do, and research says that you can play a new common technology on your player board or pay 1 gold to raise a civil or military technology by 1 level. Now what does that mean is that if you want to cover any of your units with an upgraded unit card with a level 1 higher than the previous one, because you can't jump from level 1 to level 3, you have to do it gradually, you would have to pay 1 gold. If you have a technology slid already into any of the slots and you want to upgrade it, thus uncovering the 2nd level of the technology, you have to pay 1 gold. But if you only want to add a new technology with a first level, or you want to place a card on a unit with level 1, so no upgrading, no increase in the level of the technology, but only changing, for example, the stats of the unit, this would be for free. So for now, I will place the general upgrade, which is called Lime Inferior. I don't know how you pronounce it in English, really is from Latin, and this is my first level, so it costs me nothing to upgrade it, and it says that whenever I defeat a barbarian token, I will receive 3 victory points. This is a pretty good upgrade, and this is totally for free, and now my round is ended. Now, the yellow player might think that it would be good to recruit again, and he adds another token to the recruiting, and as you remember, he can recruit in a controlled area with a city, so he can only recruit here, and he will recruit 1 unit for which he has to pay 1 leather in the form of gold because he has no leather left, and he will recruit 1 light infantry, thus kind of regaining the lost units from the previous battle. And now the white player will do a recruit action as well, and they will recruit an archer unit for 1 leather and 1 wood and add it to their town. Where is the archer unit? Here we go, to their city. And what this caused is that we have 3 discs, as you can see, at the recruiting action, and this allows any player who has the disc on the lowest space, on the lowest of this stack, to form a reaction. So the yellow player is pushed out and he has 2 reactions to choose from. And now let's take a look at all of those reactions right now, because they are pretty simple to explain. The first reaction that's available to the yellow player, because those 2 are available for him, is selling goods or trading 1 iron for 1 gold. Now, trading 1 iron for 1 gold is obvious. You just give back 1 iron, you get 1 gold. Trading resources, or selling goods, sorry, is done based on this value track that you have printed on the player board. You can sell 1 leather for 1 culture advancement. You can sell 1 wood for 1 culture step on the track as well. A stone sold gives you 2 steps on the culture track, and iron sold gives you 3 steps on the culture track. This is what selling goods means. You can take wood or stone, which is self-explanatory. You take either wood or stone and that's it. Now, if the yellow player was pushed into here from the second action, he would have a regroup action to fulfill, and regrouping is moving, is the same as moving, but you don't have to compare your army limits, so you wouldn't have to pay for any extra units, and you can't start a battle when you do regrouping, so you can only move between areas that are controlled by you. There is also recruiting, which works exactly the same as normal recruiting. There is also take wood or leather, which is self-explanatory. You take 1 unit of this or that. And there is cultural exchange, which means that you can either sell, meaning discard 1 card from your culture hand for 1 gold, or you can pay 1 gold to purchase any of the culture track cards, no matter your position on the track itself. And that's it. So for now, the yellow player will choose a reaction that will change 1 iron into 1 gold. And now his noble token goes into the discard position. And now the white player will also perform a maneuver action, and he will try and conquer this region with 1 cavalry and 1 infantry unit. This is Bohemia. So let's take 2 barbarian units, and let's see if he is more lucky than the yellow player. So first, the white player has the archer, so it's a 4+ result on the archer, which would allow him to score a hit, and it's a 5. So with a 5, this player will say that he killed this infantry because the infantry has only 1 hit to get. Now the cavalry from the barbarians, because the infantry and the archer units do not have a cavalry stat, rolls 1 die. So other player at the table rolls 1 die for the barbarian, and 5+ gives them a hit. and it's a 6. So let's say that one infantry is being cleaned out from the white player, and now the white player's infantry has a 5+ result if they want to hit, and the cavalry also has a melee result of 6+. So first the white player rolls one green die and it's a miss, and the cavalry has a 1 and this is a miss as well. So now the cavalry has 2 armor, so they would have to take 2 hits in order to be defeated. So that would be difficult by now, but right now we calculate at the end of the combat, we calculate the strength of the units, and this cavalry is barbarian, so this is level 1, so the strength of barbarians is 1. These are 2 level 1 units, so the strength is 2, so the white player has won this battle, and he takes the token. This is gain 1 wood and 1 leather. This is a brilliant token. So 1 wood and 1 leather for the white player. And also, whenever you defeat a barbarian token, receive 3 victory points. So the white player scores 3 victory points. And now the white player could easily do the free action of settling, because his the region of Bohemia is, the province of Bohemia is in the same region and neighboring his capital, and the first number on the king's card is 2, so he would be able to make those 2 units disappear, because those are 2 level 1 units, and place this 1 farm here if he wanted to, but that's not going to be very economical. I would like to have those 2 units with the white player, because the yellow one is pretty close here and he could just enter and occupy the area. All right. So now there are 2 last actions to show you. One is building and one is passing. And let's start with the passing action, because now it's the yellow player's turn and he has no other idea of what to do. At least let's say he has no other idea, so he will choose to pass. Now, when you pass in Dark Ages, there is a series of things that you have to go through when it comes to the actions, to things that you do, and let's go through them one by one. So first, when a player passes, you discard the leftmost card from the culture track and slide everything and complete the row. That's number 1. 2, you take a look at your provinces, at your regions, and if you are able to claim a title card, you do just that. What does it mean to claim a title card? You have to have the majority in the province, in the region, when it comes to controlling the provinces. So the yellow player doesn't have a majority everywhere. Majority, for example, in a 3-province region would be rounded up, so you'd have to control 2 regions, 2 provinces in a region, sorry, in order to have a majority. White player would have a majority here, but they could only claim the title when they are passing, so not yet. And for each region that you do not control, for each province you do not control in this majority region, you would have to pay 1 noble disc into the discard, so you'd have to have a noble disc saved when you are passing. You wouldn't be able to pass on an empty, without any noble discs. So this player doesn't get any title cards, and this player would be able to, the white player, but only when they are passing, so we'll have to wait for that. Now, what do title cards do for you? You collect a title card, you get the number of victory points which is printed on the bottom, and you also can put this card next to your player board, and whenever you are performing any of the actions from the culture track, the main 5 actions, you can tap the title card in order to perform this action again. And those cards become untapped once you pass, so these enable you to double on your actions, basically. So the yellow player right now is passing, but he cannot take any title cards, and he right now collects all the nobles back from the board without changing the order of the other discs. So he has 6 right now. He's checking their warehouse track, and the warehouse is a pretty important thing, because right now you can see that he's on the first level of the warehouse, which means that he can sell 0 resources and hold only 1. What does it mean to sell resources? If you sell resources, you are able to, because your warehouse tells you that you can sell 1 or 2, that means that you can sell them as you would with this reaction for selling goods. So one leather per one culture, one wood per one culture, one stone per two culture, or one iron per free culture. But the yellow player cannot sell anything, and he can hold only one resource. So he has two resources right now because he has one steel and one rock. Gold isn't a resource, so it doesn't count. So he has to discard one, and he decides to discard the stone. Okay, and now the player who passes receives 1 gold. That's always a flat rate, and you resolve any technology effects that have the phrase immediately after passing mentioned. Now, if the player would have in his hand any cognomen cards, which are those horizontal cards I've shown you earlier, he would have to play them now and score them no matter what. He can't hold on to them after passing. And the last thing that happens is that for every building that the player controls next to a city in a province that they control, he produces resources. So right now I have 1 stone, 1 black building, so I produce 1 stone for the yellow player. Now, if this city had other colors of buildings, those resources will be produced as well. But if, for example, there would be 2 black buildings with 2 stone production, that would mean that for 2 buildings I would produce 3 stone, and for 3 identical buildings I would produce 5 of a given resource. Okay, so this is it. And of course, untap all the cards that have been tapped, and this is the pass for the game. So this is how it goes. So discard the leftmost culture card, claim titles if you have majority in any region, then take all the noble discs from the culture display, check your warehouse track and sell goods and hold as many goods as you can, receive 1 gold, discard any cognomen cards if you have any in your hand, and produce resources from buildings attached to cities in provinces you control. And this is called passing in the game. And now the white player will do 1 more action before they pass, and this is a building action. So building is probably the longest action to explain because you can build a lot of things. You can build a second farm in an area where you have the first farm. So remember, the first farm you have to place using the free settling action, but the second farm can only be built using the build action. You can also build a city, you can build a keep, you can build a church, and you can build also any of the production buildings that are available to you. So there are a lot of options. Let's go one by one. So if you want to build a farm, a second farm in any region you control, you spend 2 wood and you take the leftmost farm, you add it to the area, and that's it. And your levels of army would raise because of that. Now, if you have a region in which you have some units, or a region you control by having a farm there, you can also build a city for 1 wood and 1 stone. After you build a city, immediately receive 2 culture points, which can move you up the culture track, and you move the production building from the province next to the city wall, so 1 wall of the city is being occupied, right? And the city, if a province containing your city is attacked by any enemy, it will receive 1 transient archer unit in that province. So city gives you help to defending the province. And also farms produce 1 transient footman unit for each farm present in the region. So you would also gain that, I forgot to mention. Now, churches. If you build a church next to a city and it occupies 1 of the walls, so you would be able to build less production buildings later, you score 5 victory points for building a church. 5 victory points immediately, and it also allows you to play a relic card from your hand. Now, a church costs you 2 wood and 1 stone, and you get 5 victory points for placing a church here, and also you get 1 victory point if this is the first church in the region, and also you get 1 victory point for each neighboring region to the province in which the church was built, which doesn't have a church itself. So in this case, you can gain a few more if you are building churches early. And remember, I took the church from the supply, but you have to take churches from the top of this track. I didn't want to reach because it's very far away. I would have to stretch my hand too much, right? And all those rules are on the player board as well for you to remember. Now you can also build a keep, and the first level of a keep costs you 1 stone, the second level costs you 1 wood and 1 stone, and the third level costs you 1 stone and 1 iron. You place keeps in the middle of your cities that you control, and each level of your keep allows you to add +1 to any one die result during a melee phase of a combat, which is happening in this province or an adjacent province. So if I had a keep here and I was fighting here, I could add 1 to any result of a die during the last phase of combat, which is the melee combat, right? And you can do this once per each keep level. And when you defend a region with a keep, so somebody attacks you and you have a keep in a region, you receive +1 to the battle result for each level of that keep. +1 to the battle result means to the strength of the units that survived the battle. And the last buildings that you can build are production buildings, and this is also a bit clever, because if you want to build a production building to another city wall, and this is a building that matches the production of the region, you pay this cheaper price of 1 wood and 1 stone. But if you want to build a different production building that doesn't match the region's production, you have the choice of building a building that matches the production of any of the neighboring regions. So for example, in the case of Marca Geronis, this could be wood or this could be leather as well, because there is a stone here and stone here, but you have to pay a more expensive price of 2 wood and 1 stone if you want to build. And you can also build up your warehouse by paying the either or cost, so either wood or stone, and later stone or iron and stone itself, to increase the hold and sell levels of your warehouses. Phew! So that's basically it. And now the white player has chosen the build action and he can think of something to build, and I think that the white player will spend 1 wood and 1 stone in order to build a city in Bohemia, which is a province that is controlled by him because he has 2 archers here. So this building would be attached to the city, and Bohemia is right now producing 1 wood and is controlled by the white player. So he built 1 building. Okay, let's make one more turn with each of the players, because I want to show you how to claim the title card in reality, and then we will skip to the end of the game scoring rules, and I will tell you where do you get points for scoring the game, because everything else is more or less said. So the yellow player has recovered all of his discs and he has a few resources left over, let's say, and these resources could be pretty useful for a build action as well. So the yellow player places his noble on the building action, and he will also build a city here to produce this 2nd stone, and he has to pay 1 wood and 1 stone. He has 1 stone and pays 1 gold instead of the wood. And that's it. And the white player will say pass right now. And passing means cleaning the card. Oh, and both players built up cities, which I forgot about. The white player was first, so he will get 1 gold as well, but they both advance on the culture track for this city. But the white player was first and he reached the red space first, so he gets 1 gold. So we've cleared the card, and now the white player is legible for claiming the title card for Bohemia for 7 victory points, because he is controlling more than half of the region, and he can spend the last noble disc for the region he doesn't control. So he takes the Bohemia card and 7 victory points. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So that's a lot ahead. And after that, he's checking his warehouse. He has 0 to sell and 1 to hold. So he will hold on to his leather. He will cast out the iron resource, and then he will receive 1 gold because of the passing, and he has no cognomen cards in his hand, and for each province that he controls with a city, he builds the resources. So this is 1 wood and 1 stone. there you go. And he would untap all of the cards and also collect all of his tokens, right, before everything. So all the nobles would come back to him, and that's pass, and then there's the yellow player's turn, and on we go and on we go until one of the conditions for triggering the end of the game is set. And what were the 5 conditions? Let me repeat once more. You either one player reaches the end of the culture track, this deck of cards gets depleted, all the cities that you can, in 11 in the case of a 2-player game, are built, all the churches are built, or one player has 4 advancements of technology, either the army or the buildings, on level 3. That's where the end game triggers. And what happens when the end game triggers? Now, after the player who triggered the end game finishes his turn, every player has to pass for 1 turn. So each player performs a pass movement, right? A pass action, and then play continues until each player passes again. But when each player passes again for the last time, they only they don't discard the cards anymore, right? After this passing, they can claim the title, and then they just recover the noble discs. They don't do selling, they don't do holding, they don't produce any more units, and then the game ends. And if the end game trigger is triggered and everybody's forced to pass for the first time after that, and you are in control of all of your noble tokens, so because you passed in the previous round, you get 1 gold as a reward as well for doing something like this. Okay, and before I tell you how to calculate the points, I will mention just one more thing. Because during combat, you can obviously attack provinces with enemy units, and if an enemy has a farm here, for example, and you win the combat, the farm goes back to the enemy's track and is placed on the highest numbered area, and you take control of the city and everything. But you can also attack the capitals of the players, but you cannot conquer them. If you attack a capital city of another player and you win, you automatically can steal 1 resource from that player, or 1 gold, and you gain victory points equal to the highest number on the farm track of that player. And you have to retreat your units to where they came from. And the same thing happens when you are defeated in any combat. Your units have to retreat to the place where they came from, and if you win a combat, the enemy units have to retreat to any neighboring region that is controlled by that player, and if they can't, then they get destroyed. And that's it. So what do we do, and how do we calculate the points at the end of the game? So after the end of the game is triggered, and after everybody has passed, and then we're doing the rounds again, and everybody has passed again, there's the final scoring. Now, you score VP during the game on this track, and at the end of the game, you score VP for every level of technology which has victory point numbers next to them. So for example, 0, 1, 4, here you score for each controlled city with 1, 2, 3 buildings. That means production buildings or churches. So if a city you control has 1 building, you score 2 victory points. If it has 2 buildings, you score 4 victory points. And if it has 3 buildings, you score 7 victory points for each of those cities you control. Each level of keep controlled scores 1 victory point per neighboring province you control, even if it's controlled without a city. So each level of the keep, so if you have 3 keeps here, 3 levels of a keep, you will get 3 victory points for each neighboring province you control. After that, you score the culture track, and there are victory points printed here. So if you've reached any of those levels, you get this amount of victory points. Then you score your warehouse. So if you build the warehouse up to a certain level, you will also get victory points for that. Then you score the farm track, and here are victory points at some point here as well, 5, 10, 15, 20, and so forth. You score all the title cards you have at the end of the game with you again, and you also score 1 point for each gold that you have in your reserves at the end of the game. And one more thing about title cards: when you take them from the map for the first time, you score the victory points, and then at the end of the game you can score them again. But if another player has later the majority in the region, then they can take the title card from you on the same rules as they would take them from the map, but they don't score victory points immediately, they only score at the end of the game. And that's it. Now, this game of Dark Ages has, as you can see in the rulebook, a lot of modules. There is a module for solo play, which I won't be covering today yet. There is a module for the Great Domain, which connects the two maps and allows 8-player maximum play. And there are a lot of modules that you can add to this game, like Grand Buildings, Alchemists, Commanders, Alliances, the Words, Skirmishers, the Ages of War, Tribute, Distant Campaigns, Travels of Benjamin, the Pope, or even the Crusades, and last but not least, Rise of Poland in the Holy Roman Empire box. I won't be covering those, they are very well explained in the rulebook, and once you figure out all of those rules and play one game on those vanilla rules, you should be very comfortable with adding more components. This is it. This is Dark Ages, and my name was Lone Vic. If you liked this video, if you like this explanation, subscribe, hit the notification bell, give me a like under the video. If you have any questions, doubts, or something wasn't clear, or I've made a mistake or something, like with the kings in the beginning, sorry about that, write it in the comments. I will happily answer and clarify anything. And see you soon in other of my videos. Check them out. There are a lot of explanations of how to play. There are a lot of reviews, and fresh ones are coming up every week or two or so, hopefully more regularly than usual. And for now, thank you very much. Have a great day. Have a great game. Have a great day. Enjoy this game if you have it. If you don't, try to find it. It's a brilliant strategy game. I love it after a few plays, and it's a lot of fun. It's very highly recommendable. Check out my review that will be coming very soon for this game as well. I'll be talking about all the pluses and the negatives of this game in there as well. Thank you very much. Once more, bye bye.